Morning, everyone. It's the week after the week that was, and we're coming to you from the brand new Holden Sources purpose-built studio. It's got our first recording, and as you may guess, Judge, the only thing not working is the heating. So hopefully,
Yeah.
once we get that fixed, we won't have to dress up like Captain Scott on these. But it is now Tuesday. I think everybody who loves the festival, Judge, goes into that post Cheltenham blues where
Yes.
I think I was told that the reason this can happen is the amount of adrenaline used up by Cheltenham fans, by people who bet all week and take the week off and sit there and get stuck into it all, is an incredible amount of adrenaline, and afterwards the body goes into a low. So
Yeah.
if you're feeling bad, you've got post Cheltenham depression, whatever. It's a physical thing. Don't worry. A couple of days, everyone will be fine. Unless you've completely done your conkers in, then it might be genuine depression. But Judge, what did you think to the week overall? I know crowds were down and various
Yeah.
things, but I think it had some great storylines, didn't it?
I think the biggest take from it is the horses themselves. I mean, there were some fantastic stories, and let's be honest, that's what it's all about. I know we all like a punt. I know, of course, we want to find some winners, but I think there's so many good stories about the actual horses themselves. And I mean, the Tuesday was massive, wasn't it? What went on the Tuesday in particular. But I mean, general, I think there's a few takeouts which would come to. I was really pleased that De Bromhead stable came back to life, if you like. I know they had Honeysuckle last year, but they're quite a poor festival intent. But I thought this year they were right back on it. I mean, you've got to actually outperform Gordon Elliott, for example. You think how many amount of horses that he's got. I think he had an excellent festival, and obviously there's a few others that didn't, which we quite happily go through when we get there.
Definitely. So what we're going to do, folks, is going to go through the championship races, and then we'll do any other business on that
Yeah.
day. So we will kick off by looking at the champion hurdle. It was, of course, on 3:30 on Tuesday. Now, I'll give my take out from this. I know you've got quite a sort of disappointment from this, and I share your view of that, but I'll let you explain that. Constitution Hill was the only winner of the week, really, for Nicky. Had a quiet one. Now, everything went to plan for this, and you have to say it was spellbindingly impressive. It was 4-11 favourite. I mean, it looked as though 50-1 on would have been value when they turned the corner. Yeah, I mean, so I know all these big players who went in. You got to admire them, but you know, I think that the way to look at this race is that the second State Man won easily at Cheltenham last year, has been winning Grade 1 since, fairly impressively, and is clearly a good horse. Now, talking to some of the top speed guys and the clock watcher guys over the weekend, just reviewing the festival with them, they are convinced that State Man last Tuesday ran the race of his life in terms of the marks, the figures, the top speeds, whatever. So if that's true, and I've no reason to believe these guys are wrong, because they rarely are, to beat him 9 lengths means I think we could be now. I thought it was too early to start raving about this horse. We've done it. Now we could be looking at something in sort of top 3, top 4 of all time. I really think now we can start making those comparisons. The horse has got the lot, Judge, hasn't he? He jumps, the way he travels, the way he quickens off his own strong pace. And I know there's talk of him going over fences, and I think that's the way they should go, because if he is going to be the great horse. 6 now he could go.
With 3 champion hurdles. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I think he could be that new Dawn run. He could go through the years. But if he does hang around over hurdles, I really think for the next 3 years at least, it's going to be very difficult to get him beat.
Yeah, well, without a doubt. I mean, to be fair, he is a freak, isn't he? The jump at the last side, I mean, blimey heck. The scope he's got, so obviously he can jump the fence, but you think with how he got over that hurdle was, you know, when you look back at it, you don't realise it at the time. God, it was unbelievable. So,
But if he'd fallen, Miko would have been running at the town.
Oh, God, yeah. But he came out of his hands, didn't he? He literally just came out of his hands. But there's from a sort of a punting perspective, I was extremely disappointed with the Champion Hurdle because I really thought that they would try and win the race, the Mullins team. I think it was. I could not believe State Man was rigged to come second. If that had been that's basically what happened, because he never looked like trying to beat Constitutional, did he? He was held up second last and come through into second. I mean, and under a hand ride, he finished second. If you watch it back, it's, you know, they knew they couldn't beat it almost before they started. And I had this vision that they would try and beat it. You know, they'd be bold and go it up from the front, because let's be honest, he's been running from the front pretty much all season. State Man, it's been prominently ridden.
Yeah, he's been handy. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he was held up, and I saw a little interview about 30 seconds before the off. Rich Ridges goes, "We're going to have a change of tactics on Vauban." I couldn't believe it. I was sick to the stomach, because I thought this horse was going to be ridden out last, like he has been pretty much every single time, and come through late. No, he was sitting in there in third, and he got picked up by Zanir over the last, because obviously I'm on the anti-post, got picked up by Zanir, who, guess what, was ridden from last and picked him up over the last. And that ended up costing me a nice few quid overall, because all the other placed horses that I come up with on the week all placed. And that, from a punting perspective, was disappointing. But I just don't understand why you have to find out 30 seconds before the off that that's going to happen. I mean, surely all these, we have about 850,000 previews. You think someone somewhere would have gone, "Oh, we might have a change of tactics on something."
Yeah.
And you know, it just makes you feel ill, doesn't it? You feel like you're being kind. Because there's no way I'd have backed Vauban each way if I know if they were going to change the tactics on it. And to be fair, also anti-post, I thought Zanny here was going to run in one of the handicaps, if I'm honest. So otherwise, he would definitely have been on my radar, because previously placed in the Champion Hurdle. But I kind of thought, if you like, the State Man was ridden a little bit like I wanted Vauban to be ridden. He was literally, and he come through. If that'd been like a novice hurdle somewhere, you'd have gone, "Cool, that's run a nice race and finishing second to the odds-on favourite." But I think deep down they probably knew they couldn't beat him. So perhaps that was the reason why it was ridden like that. But I've watched it a couple of times since, and I mean, he had for me, I thought State Man had quite a run, and there's no doubt he's going to be lined up for the Punchestown Festival now, and pick up one or two of those sort of the Irish races later on, the Grade Ones that there are. And I mean, it was a lovely race. Don't get me wrong, but that was the bit that it was a bit of pill to swallow, if you see what I mean. Because if you know something, you definitely would change your tack. Because I'll be honest, I'd love to have got out of me, but you can't do anything about it. You're already in, aren't you? Then, you know, if there was even a muttering, I'd have gone for. I'd have to have because I like to move it, because I thought that was going to be trying to make the running for sure. That I couldn't have that at all on my mind. So when you look at the marketplace, and it went down to less than 8 runners, which we thought it would, you got 3 places, and when you don't fancy the fourth favourite, you think, well, something's got a place in it, hasn't it? And sure enough, Sander here would have been the next one in, really, wouldn't he? Because you couldn't have backed the other ones. So there we go. So that was a bit I took away from it. So disappointing punting wise, but very, very impressive. The winner's just going to take the world, unless he gets an injury. I mean, it's definitely going to win the next year's Champion Hurdle. Although we'll come to that later on.
I don't think he'll be over hurdles next year. But if he did,
I can understand why they're thinking that. But I'd have thought if he were mine, it's just madness. Why you got the best hurdler in the best division? Why do you have to go chasing? There is this thing about chasing all the time. Why? I mean,
they want to be a historic horse.
Yeah, well, Histobrack's historic, isn't it? That won 3 Champion Hurdles.
Yeah, so, true. Good point.
I mean, we're all different. I personally, if I've got the best horse, I can't see why I would even consider another option. So it's a bit like, I don't know, I'm trying to give another example. I can't think of another sport when someone's the best at something and they think they try to do it in a slightly different way. But
I suppose it's like a boxer moving up through the weight divisions, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose so. I suppose if you're, I don't know, like middleweight or something, you want to be one of the biggest. But at the end of the day, if you're the best in the world at something, why?
Yeah, no, I can see both sides.
No, so can I.
Yeah, let's have anything else.
Little review.
The one I want to mention on the Tuesday is El Fabiolo. Now, the interesting thing about El Fabiolo is it was only up until the actual day that this horse really powered to the head of the market. Now, people are saying he's got Constitution Hill, but Henderson, all the preview nights, we were told that John Bon was a monster, and you have to say Al Fabiola has knocked him out of the way and beat him 5.5 lengths. And the betting markets in the last half hour were so really big hits on El Fabiola, and I thought he was very, very good because he came in here with less experience than John Bon, and he put in an extremely polished performance, even with his, he always makes one howler, and he did that at the last. But what I like about him, when he makes his howler, he comes straight back on the bridle and just powers up that hill. Now, I think he's going to be an interesting champion chase contender next year.
Definitely.
I think he's a very interesting horse. And John Bon, well, he might have got beat by a very good horse, and he might still be a very good horse. So I know there's a huge disappointment for people who followed him, and the Lambon guys were devastated he got turned over. But I think he might have just ran into a genuine 2-mile superstar, El Fabiola. I don't know what you thought, Judge.
Yeah, to be honest with you, Matt, I think I echo pretty much what you say. I think El Fabiola is going to take the world of beating in next year's Queen Mother. And for what it's worth, I do think John Bon's going to take the world of beating in the Ryanair next year, because I think he's got to step up in trip. He just seemed to get outpaced at the crucial time. The same happened to him at Warwick a little bit, didn't it? In that 2-horse race. Sure. I just think he's got beaten by a better horse, but probably a faster horse. And I just think he's got to step up in trip. And I'd be surprised if them two sort of don't meet next year, and they'll both be hard to beat in their divisions.
Yeah, but they obviously thought John Bon did have the pace at 2 miles, because they thought he was going to.
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean that was the race to run into a certain extent, because he'd been running over 2 miles all year. But interesting, I'd like to talk about the betting markets, because I've never seen markets like it. It's bizarre. I mean, I fancied one horse in the Boodles at one stage. I mean, I backed it at 50s. It traded at 6.6. Well, before the race, and then went all the way back out to 33s again. There's some real weird. I mean, we're talking about these are Cheltenham markets, and they got some serious things wrong, and they also got some serious things right at the festival. Don't know what you think. And so there must be some kind of algorithm somewhere. There must be some fearless punters. It's because some of the horses went to unbelievable prices, didn't they?
The betting story of the week for me was the fact that a horse I'd put up at 10-1 and thought he could go off 5 or 6 was Sandor Clegane. He went off 25s and just got done on the line.
I think he was nearly 40 or 50 at one stage as well, wasn't it?
And the ground was right for him. So there were some insane markets. And again, all these people that come out of this tosh about the market's so accurate, there's none like that. No, it isn't. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it's mild.
I just think the view. I mean, I must be honest. There, after a couple of days, I was thinking more of the Irish angle, which we'll come to later on. I mean, obviously, I've got to quickly touch on the honeysuckle story. I mean, obviously, that's fantastic. That I don't think the race was worth a tin of beans, because literally it's a slowly run race, and she gave it a brilliant race. Some poor rides over the festival, as well as some great ones. This was a race very slowly run. Love Envoy got an easy lead, and if you watch it back, Honeysuckle sat in second, and that's pretty much how the race went all the way around. And you've got, I think, like Brandy Love run a very good race from held up last, even though it's come 5th. I think that's one to probably look at. But in terms of the jewels, in terms on the Tuesday, I did have a couple of things. I wanted to run by Oscar Elite. Guess what they did with Oscar Elite again? They went around the car park again. What are they doing with the horse? Ran a great race, didn't it?
I did say don't do it, didn't I? Because
he went wide again. I can't resist it, can I? I just don't understand why you have to. But he didn't let us down there. The one I wanted to take out of that race, I think will be winning a big handicap next year, is a horse called Monbeg Genius. I think it won its previous 3 starts to this, travelled into it, and only got beat by a very good horse. I mean, that Corax Rambler will have an excellent chance in the National. He lets us pull himself up, and he's quirky, but he's a good horse on his day, isn't he?
Yeah, very good. Very good.
Yeah, so that's pretty much. Obviously, the Boodles was a good race, and I thought a couple of interesting. Mr. Freedom, who we mentioned on this show on its previous start. I don't know what went on there. He was actually quite unlucky, because the jockey nearly got knocked out of the saddle. I'm not saying he would have won, but it would have been 2 or 3 lengths closer, and it would have. And bearing in mind knowing how much he finds off the bridle, he could have been involved in the finish. The one horse that was disappointing was a horse called Sir Alan, but everything that went wrong did go wrong for that horse because it on its previous win, the form was well franked by Jazzy Matty, because all the horses that run out of that race, I think it's at Navan that he won last time, Jazzy Matty, Biker, and all them type of horses all actually hit the frame. He was the only one out of the race that didn't. And I can't help thinking he would improve, and he'll probably run well next time you see him run. But it's a good day's racing all in all.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Let's go on to the Tuesday and deal with the championship race, and then we'll do sort of any other business on Wednesday.
Yeah, but the Wednesday, I'm guessing. Yeah, I know what you meant. The Champion Chase.
Champion Chase. So let's start with Energumene. Now, again, this was one of those markets that got it right and changed late on. We'd had Edwardstone as a favourite. Of course, Energumene had run so badly the time before and beaten by not just Edwardstone, but beaten by Editor de G. But on the last day, now we know, of course, that the owner of Energumene does like a few quid when he fancies it. But I think
yes.
People are slightly overplaying that hand as though it's like one man against the industry. There was plenty of people on Energumene, both at the track, certainly around the country, and it's not just the Lizards bets that have done this. And I mean, I was very, very sweet on the horse, but I think this is his best ever run by a mile. It was so impressive. And what was interesting was that Townend, who'd held it up and given it such a stinker, obviously, to be fair to him, had learned and let the horse have his head. Yeah. And when he did, he just powered away from them. You've got Captain Guinness in second. Grenadine obviously had another successful year. Editor de G, who he just couldn't get clear of this field. And, of course, you've got Edwardstone. So the right horses were there. The other sort of big 2 mile players, there was nobody who wasn't here for this. And he really is a class apart. Now he's 9, would be 10 coming back. I think El Fabiolo might be his biggest rival in this if they're all fit and well next year. I cannot see anything behind turning the tables on him next March, Judge.
No, I think I'm gonna probably have a different viewpoint. I just think he came back to form personally. I can't have some of the runs from the horses behind it. They were beyond bad. I mean, it was, you got 3 horses all finished within half a length of each, or 2 or 3 lengths of each other the previous time they met. And 2 horses basically didn't turn up. Even Grenadine didn't run his race, did he? He absolutely whacked one at the top of the hill. So he really was left with nothing to beat. And he did beat, let's be honest, he beat Captain Guinness, who, like he should do. And Captain Guinness ran a very good race. And the market knew that Captain Guinness was going to run a good race. So they actually got this race right. But the drift on Edwardstone, and I was staggered, to be fair, and I was staggered how bad a horse that's very, very consistent. To be fair, what I would have liked to see in here was like a proper race, and it couldn't have won any easier, Energumene. And like you say, nothing from behind, I don't think, can be beating it. But I would definitely be more inclined to think El Fabiolo will be giving him a tough time next year. And don't forget, he'd be a year older next year. He'd be a 10-year-old Energumene. So he's got. I mean, but the fact he achieved the same RPR as he did last year would suggest that he's still there as a good horse. But maybe one more year later, I think one of the younger legs might come and do him. But I think he'd be thereabouts, obviously.
What happens to Edwardstone now?
Well, he's still got to be campaigned as a Queen Mother horse, isn't he? He's only run one bad race, isn't he? But I don't. He's obviously a bit older as well because he come chasing late on. He's not going to be any better next season, is he? It'd be hard to beat in England, I think, in Edwardstone. But when he comes, it was a very poor, it was a really poor performance. And I mean, even like the real solid yardstick Editor Gee, I mean, he ran terrible. I mean, they were beat far too out for this to be anything else other than they weren't there, I mean, even if they got beat 15 lengths, so I could understand it, or 20, but they were beat like a furlong. I mean, they were both beat at the top of the hill, both of them, both those two were both beat at the top of the hill. I mean, Edwardstone actually looked beat, but did well to almost get back in it. I mean, that was his, but it can't be right. Something's got been wrong with that. that run. The worst he should have been was third, isn't it? Sort of a couple of lengths even behind Captain Guinness. But I think we spent too long on the race, to be honest. I think the winner came back to form and showed his true class. And the second run ran well. Another Irish horse that ran well for the Harrington Yard. And I don't think, to be honest, anything else other than that ran its race.
Okay. The other one I want to highlight on the Wednesday is in the Johnny Henderson Grand Annual, the 450.
Okay.
Where I thought that the number 2, Dino Blue, is a really interesting yardstick because the horse was clearly extremely well laid out for this race and it was severely punted. That leads me to sort of the eye catcher. This thing of De Bromhead's that's actually won the race. It's beaten a horse that Mullins and everybody connected with thought was going to run to a mark that would win 9 out of 10 of these big handicaps. Now, I know Dino Blue took a bit of a keen haul, but I think he ran his race. So this Moscada has beaten this and everything else completely out of sight in what is always one of the most competitive handicaps of the whole year. So I think this going forward could well prove that handicaps are not where it should be. I think it's a serious horse. This one blew me away. It really, really did. I love the way it jumped. I love the way it traveled. I love the way it finished. And I just think the second horse was the right horse. It wasn't a race where things underperformed. The horse that was the big mover of the day, that was the big Irish gamble, was second. And that means I think Moscada is a horse that you really need to keep a very close eye on going forward.
Yeah, I think there's two things I'd like to actually highlight from this race. First of all, the improvement of a couple of horses for going from England to Ireland. And this is one of them, because this went from Stuart Edmund's yard to the Henry de Bromhead's. And I like you, this was really impressive. Thoroughly, even though Time White fell 2 out, we'll never know. I still think the way this won, I'd be amazed if Time White beat it. And bearing in mind she's a mare, I think she's got a fantastic chance in the mare's chase next year. You've got to. We'll come to that later on. I mean, Impervious against Logorita Vassi, whatever you call it. I think this will be targeted for that. She's only 7 as well, Moscada, so she'll be an 8-year-old next year. I'd be surprised if she's not keeping open company. And the other thing I want to say, which is a good thing in some aspects, there was a faller on this card. The way Dino Blue absolutely smashed the second last and then smashed the last and stayed on its feet. I mean, that wouldn't have happened years ago, would it? Or am I just looking at it slightly differently?
No, there wasn't a faller all day in the chases, which is brilliant.
Which is great, but they're there to jump at the end of the day. So and then of course I think somebody said something like that, and then we got about 4 fallers in the Gold Cup, didn't we? When they're meant to be able to jump. Yeah. But,
so what else did you highlight on Wednesday?
On the Wednesday, well, I've got this is another one of my sorry tales, but I tipped 2 horses in the Coral Cup. I tipped Camprond and Langadan, and I played the exacta on the 2 of them reverse. And Aidan Coleman on Brown, if he could have his ride again, he went about a furlong too soon. I mean, he's made a mistake at the third last, mistake at the second last, and finally made another mistake at the last. Traded at 1-4 in the run. This horse is really unlucky not to have been a winner of this race. I mean, last year the rain came, but came again this year, affected the poor thing. And I think this time last year he went to Ireland and then won its next start. So for me, Comprond is definitely a jewel. He's definitely, he's got to. And I see he's gone up £5 today, which I thought was a tad harsh, bearing in mind he's got beat. But the 3 of them were clear, weren't they? The 3 of them were clear. So that was definitely a jewel for me. The other race, we've got to talk about Impere Pass. How impressive was that? And how disappointed Hermes Allen was. And we had Frank after Frank for Hermes Allen, came there cruising 2 out, went out like a light. And I think something's got to have been wrong with him, because You Wear It Well won later on in the meeting. Unfortunately, that run put me off actually tipping You Wear It Well, because I thought, well, perhaps I'm wrong about that form line. But Impere Pass, I do think this horse will possibly be the one to take advantage in the Champion Hurdle if Constitution Hill doesn't go there. I can't see. I think this is a serious animal.
Yeah, it was impressive. Very impressive. And you're right. If they do what I suspect they'll do with the champion hurdler, then that blows that wide open, and there's no other superstar hurdlers around. We've seen that, haven't we?
Absolutely. You would fancy. I think you would fancy him to beat State Man myself at the moment. Might be wrong. I think they make State Man favourite if they raced against each other. But I would rather be with the Improver because all the buzz was the fact that because that was another market they got wrong, wasn't it? There was fortunes for Hermes Allen, and that drifted right out on the off. And I want a quick mention of the bumper because I think this might be a better bumper this year than last year. And I think the first two at the Dublin Racing Festival fought each other out. Captain Teague ran a good race for England in third. Why Harry Cobden went up the inside, and then had a barging match. I actually had a duel in this. I don't know. Did you watch the bumper? Can you remember that one too much?
Yeah.
I thought the horse to take from this was a horse that finished about 7th or 8th. Was called Western Diego. If they can get this horse to settle, pulled nearly all the way, tanked into the lead turn into the home straight, literally pulled its way to the front, got hampered twice up the running and finished 7th. It's got beat 10 lengths. But if this horse can learn to settle, this is going to be a serious tool over hurdles next year. But obviously, it's a big if it can get it to settle.
Yeah, I agree.
I really like the run.
I think it was a strong bumper. It was a very strong bumper, and possibly the best for a few years.
I think obviously last year's was obviously proved to be a little bit disappointing. But I'd be surprised if a few don't come out of this and be sort of at least sort of in the Supreme and the Ballymore next year, and with solid claims.
Yeah, I completely agree. Right, let's move on to Thursday, and there's 2 championship races on the Thursday. The first, of course, is the
yes, I'm looking forward to talking about one of them.
Yeah. Now, Envoy Allen came back to form with a vengeance. I thought early on the horse was racing very, very free, and I'd be surprised if it lasted out, but it did. Came back on the bridle, and when it took over the lead, really looked like it was going to go away and win 15, 20 lengths. It didn't. It still won comfortably. And it was another good ride by Rachel Blackmore. Now, of course, the story of the race was the weakness. I'm saying this about an even money favourite. The weakness in the market very, very late in Shishkin, who people were talking about going off, 2s on or whatever.
Yeah, that's right.
And all the big betting previews, the way the markets were looking, well, they got this badly wrong. Because in the last quarter of an hour, looking at the exchanges, there are some serious people who wanted to take Shishkin on. Serious players, serious money.
Yes.
And went off evens. Now, of course, a lot of people thought Shishkin was the bet of the week. He'd come back to form in devastating fashion. And I thought he ran such a weird race. It didn't make sense. I thought early on that Nico might have to pull him up. He was that bad. He was at the back. It says in the official Racing Post guide, was slowly into stride and cajoled along. I mean, if that's cajoling, I thought he was in trouble. But you have to say, to be fair to the horse, he's shown incredible toughness to get going. But we all thought he needed this step up in trip. I almost thought he looked short of pace, Judge. I don't know what you thought.
Well, I do agree with you wholeheartedly on this particular race. Luckily, I've did a Bet Goodwin preview, and I did fancy Envoy Allen each way.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
And I did tip it up. It's 12-1. This went off 13-2. A bit like you, I was concerned early because he was pulling, and he tanked into the race and won comfortably. But the run of Shishkin, I think it was actually a terrific run because, I thought, crikey, I mean, not being funny, if you place laid it, you frame something at the TV. You think, how's that possibly placed? It still was only got beat, a couple of lengths at the end? I mean, it was a million, really, wasn't he? He took 2 or 3 fences with him, which is, once again, we're talking about the fences again, but he jumped terribly. You compare him to the Ascot run, and he just, I thought he ran, to be fair, in hindsight, I think he's run his eyes out. I think he's run really well with everything working against him. But he just didn't travel, which he totally travelled at Ascot. So I don't know whether there's a problem with the horse, or because there has been before, but he's not one I can. This was my concern about taking a short price about him. I thought he was one of them ones would either win easily or be out the frame. And to be fair, And with hindsight, he could have easily been out the frame. And to be honest, without the mistakes, he could have won easily, couldn't he? So it was just one of those things. And I mean,
he's becoming a very difficult horse to predict.
He's a sort of horse, basically. If he's short, you've got to be against him. Probably not lay him, but just back against him, which is what I did. And if he's a big price, you'd probably think, well, I'll have a go in case he comes back to form. He's one of them horses, isn't he?
Yeah. It's strange, but good to see the winner back. I also very quickly, great to see Hitman run the race of his life in third.
He did, and he's a bit of an early horse, but still they picked up. He's still. I mean, you'd love to have owned a horse like that, wouldn't you? That dances a few dances and picks up plenty of prize money. He's a good. Just at the end of the day, I think that's probably his best run ever, wasn't it? Must be a career best, third in a Grade 1. I think they've cut the lengths.
He ran to his best ever.
Yeah. I mean, that just shows you he's got ability on his day, the horse.
Yeah. Now,
funny enough, very quickly, two horses that got absolutely slaughtered in the King George, weren't they? Envoy Alain and Hitman.
Yeah, it just shows you didn't come back.
Yeah.
Now let's move to the stayers, the 3:30, and I'll give you the floor straight away, Judge, because on your Goodwin Racing preview night, you tipped this, and dear old Cat looks as though he thought you'd gone off your rocker.
Yes.
And so you sound like could be 33s, which is what it was on the day, and he said more like 133.
133s,
so, yeah. But I know he sent you congratulatory message.
He did, which is really nice. And I mean, to be fair, he was the first to message me, but especially with the way the rain came, and I hadn't seen the horse travel so well. In running, I've actually had to have another bet on him in running because I thought he was sitting in third. And Home by the Lead made a bad mistake early. I think actually he's run very well. He's only got beat 3 or 4 lengths. He made a shocker early on. And I thought Flooring Porter's got one along. Normally he has an easy lead on his own. It wasn't happening like that for him. And I thought, I've never seen Sire de Burley travel so well. Do you know what I mean? So I actually had another little bet in running on him. And then he did that little flat spot bit as he turned into the home straight. For me, I know I'm biased because obviously I backed the winner, but this was the race of the festival. I mean, they were all there at the last. Anything could have won. Tiupu probably was a little bit unlucky. And you had the Oldham, Dashel, Drasher, another old battler. I mean, they were literally all giving their all up the running, weren't they? It was just a terrific race to watch. And you probably heard me from your house when I was cheering on. Sire de Burley, and you must have heard me. And what a fest! Just shows you festival form is important. This horse has been there, done it, danced the dance. He's had one bad run at the festival, which last year when he was one of the favourites for the Pertemps, and I think he was slowly away. I think they had one of them standing starts because the starts weren't all perfect again this year, and he never got into the Pertemps last year. But that's the only time he's run poorly at the festival, and he was 66 in the morning. So I mean, I think one of my friends got 80s. So I mean, there was 80s about. So and in the end, he's gone off 33s. I thought that was a fair price, And he did a Sire de Burley. He won by just under. He doesn't ever win by a long way or anything, but he knows where the winning line is. And what a warrior at 11 winning a Grade 1.
Yeah, and like you, I thought in terms of the excitement of a race, it was the race of the week.
Yeah, in terms of the excitement, not the quality, but it's the excitement of the race.
Oh yeah. Great call, mate.
Thank you.
Before we move on to Gold Cup Day, I just want to mention one horse for me that I thought was very interesting going forward, and that was in the first race. Now, Stage Star, I think here was given probably the ride of the meeting. I thought Harry Copland
to sleep, didn't he?
On this because everybody's saying he got an easy lead, but you have to earn that by being positive and nicking it at the start. He's done that so many times this year. And it was one of those where people are saying that the favourites were all looking at each other. I mean, Mighty Potter, if there's a more overrated horse in Britain and Ireland than him, he does not deserve
He doesn't like Cheltenham, does he? I don't think. No, that's 2 runs now.
When he wins that, But I want to highlight the second because I think it's got Forgotten in it, which is not long till May from Laura Morgan, who Adam Wedgerod. I thought this has obviously run the rest of its life. But this could easily be forgotten in that everyone's talking about Stage Star, or they're talking about Appreciate Mighty Potter being given bad rides, given too much to do. you've just said didn't like Cheltenham. Excuses. And I
Yes,
just
there
think
are
it's not
excuses.
long
Yeah.
till May is potentially going to be forgotten and underrated. And these are the sort of horses you can make money at, because this is not going to go off a short price favourite, even though it's finished second in this, wherever it goes. Because I'll tell you why. It's going to be going to a race that will be filled with Nichols, Alan King, Elliott's, Mullins. It's going to be a big race next time out against probably some horses that it's already beat. And these are the ones I'm interested in. Small yard, but very capable yard. I don't think there was any fluke in this. He was given a positive ride from Adam Wedge, ironically, a rider who's always criticised for being too far back. And he's the only one who's had a go at the winner. And no, he hasn't beaten him. In fact, Stage Star, who will probably get 3 marks, was keeping on strongly. But he hasn't dogged it. He's hung in there. And he's finished in front of, let's be honest, he's beat fair and square Mighty Potter and Appreciate that we were told were absolute grade 1 monsters. I think this horse is going to be underrated. And he's the one, he's the jewel, the nut, but one for me for the
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the handicapper does with him, because if he gets paid, I could see him winning a nice handicap as long as he doesn't get caned for this, but I've got a feeling he might do. I thought, funny enough, there was another one further back that was given a quiet ride that didn't quite get in the Grand Annual. I thought Unexpected Party run quite a nice race as well, with handicaps in mind, is what I would probably say, over 2 miles. But yeah, it's a good run from not long to me. It's nice to see a smaller slope. How that horse has improved this season. I mean, must have improved 30, 40 pounds. It's lovely to see. It's not just always Irish horses that can always improve. And I agree with you. Yeah, it's a sort of horse that could easily, let's say, turn up at Aintree and go off 20-1 against similar horses, and could easily get the frame or run its race again. My other one actually on the day, my other jewel actually was in the per temps, and this is one of my big no-nos. So I was moaning about the Comprendre ride, but if you watch last year's per temps, a horse called Mill Green went for home well before the last and got picked up over the last and ran a cracker last year with Nicker de Bonneville riding it. And what Daryl Jacob was doing on this, he'd come wide, done everything right, and then instead of sitting still, but that important 100 yards leading up to the last, sit still, don't do anything. He's kicked on, got a length, 2 lengths up, mate. This is the hardest race ever to do this and hold on, because they always come past you at the last. Sure enough, he hit the front too soon, he's gone 2 lengths up, won the race, and then got caught. And he ran well at Aintree the time after, and I do think he still can pop up, this horse. And I think everyone's saying, oh well, you know, the Henderson horse was having a bargee match, he was unlucky, and obviously Good Time Johnny come from last to first, probably deserved to win it in hindsight. But I do think the unlucky horse, in terms of if he was given if he could have his ride again, which is your favourite saying, I'm pretty sure if Darryl sat on him for another 100 yards, I'm pretty sure we would talk about horse that probably held on by half a length rather than getting caught near the finish. Because it was quite painful because I was on at 28. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, it's a hard race to win the Potents.
Yeah, it is. And the new course is so
long. It's a long way from that second last to the last. You just got to sit still. You've got to have real guts there to do that, real balls, as they say. But never mind, that's me talking a little bit out of my pocket, but I genuinely believe that.
No, if you think it's a one to follow still. Now we come to the number 1 race of the week.
What a race! The Gold Cup.
The Gold Cup.
Yeah.
I think it delivered this year.
Without doubt.
Galopin Des Champs, obviously, we remember the kind of hard luck. One of the great hard luck stories.
Yes.
There's been real 2 camps about this. I had my doubts whether he would fully see this trip out, and I think the change in tactics was a brave move, but this is where a change in tactics won. There was no blasting off, there was whatever. He was held up. A lot of people who were on him heavy, certainly that I watched it with, weren't happy about how far back he was. But they quickly shut up when he just loomed up.
He did.
Brave Man's Game, again, has rode a great race, but I never thought he was going to beat this horse. And he actually showed so much stamina in the end that we knew he was a classy type. But my concern was this is a brutal staying race. But actually, he's got bags of stamina. And I thought it was a very, very impressive Gold Cup winner. Because I think Brave Man's Game, we know now he is a Grade 1 winner. He's a top horse. People saying he didn't like Cheltenham, but he came to the party. Conflate is a top horse. Noble Yates flew up the hill. All the right people were in the right places, really. I thought it was mega impressive. I don't know what you thought, Judge.
Mate, I hold my hands up. Got this race completely wrong. The two horses I thought probably wouldn't get up the hill. Did get up the hill better than the others. I don't think Brave Man's Game quite got the trip. He outstayed the others as such, but the winner outstayed him, if you like. I think that's the best way of saying it. But they are both very good animals, and we've already saw earlier on the King George form, well franked earlier on in the Ryanair, and Brave Man's Game's run a cracker, run his heart out, and he just got beat by a better horse at the trip. Will be a great race if they both turn up in the King George next year, won't it?
Yeah, so I thought that.
And then it could be some race that, and I mean this was some race, but I mean in terms of quality, I think this is probably the race of the meeting. If in terms of quality, I know people are on about the Champion Hurdle, but in terms of having all the right horses finishing the right positions, with within the sort of the distance covered, but. What did you think of the run of Noble Yates? I've given up on him each way. He was absolutely tailed off. I thought he was going to get pulled up. He did get hampered by the horse pulling up. I mean, how's he finished? He nearly finished third in two strides.
I didn't actually ever quite give up faith. And what he has done is run an incredible Grand National trial.
Yes, as long as he hasn't left a mark. But I mean, this could be a serious player in the Grand National, even off top weight. This was some run.
I wouldn't be worried about that. It was. He hit the wall earlier than I thought he would, and it actually showed how good the horse is, that he really stuck on. I mean, and it was a brutal race. At times, it was quite unpleasant viewing towards the end.
I know where you're coming from. I was really pleased. Obviously, the old Irish horse got up. The Shark Handling horse, because that was a horrible fall, and I did fear the worst. It was great seeing him up.
Turn away ball, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I think it was a very, very strong Gold Cup, and you take the hat off to Mullins. But for he's the master trainer. He secretly knew, I think, that if the old Galopin de Champs, and he's obviously retrained it to stay this trip, and that's a sign of the real top trainers.
It's funny you should say it, because he won the big races, but you actually looked at expected wins. He did only achieve what he should have achieved, or perhaps actually less on the week, believe it or not. But I mean, he's done a good job with this horse, and obviously because he's won the bigger races, it looks like he's had a great week. But if you actually looked at the figures, and all his winners were like 5-2 or under, they were like expected to win. He got the inertia means to peaked. I mean, I think there's a lot of pressure on Townend and Mullins to get this one home after they've had an average week. I think is the best way of saying it. I don't think it's just like, Mullins is unbelievable. I think he had an average week. He won what he should have done, but he did get the big ones right, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'll just quickly give one eye catcher going forward. Which I thought ran a really, really good race for an inexperienced, and that was the third horse in the Triumph, Zenta, who was 12 to 1. Yeah. I think this again, Mullins, who had first, second, third, fourth. Bizarre. But Zenta, I thought she was given quite a bit to do in this race. And I think if she's ridden a bit more positively in one of these Grade 1s. Now, she'd only run once this year, and once for Mullins in a race at Fairyhouse, only a 5-runner race where she won 3 lengths. Now, she was backed on the day, and obviously, I think they thought she was going to be a player in it. Lossy Mouth as a very classy horse, strange horse in the way it travels. Really strange horse to watch. Galamasso, they're both more experienced than this Zenta. I think she's got bags of improvement to come. They could go to Aintree, they could wait for Punch Sam, but I think she's going to get her his Grade 1 before the end of the year. So Zenta would be my final day jewel to put in your tracker.
That's absolutely brilliant, because my actual jewel in this race is another one in the race, funny enough. And because I couldn't have Centre on my mind, I'll be honest, I thought she jumped terrible. It's the way I do respect Mullins, though he got a horse I couldn't have on my mind to nearly win. I really like the Lossiemouth Gala Marceau form line. And the horse for me to take out of the race is the 4th, Gust of Wind. This was it was only 8-1 at the Dublin Racing Festival when he finished well behind. Sorry, I think it's in he. He finished well behind Lossiemouth and Gala Marceau there. But this was much more like it. It's finishing 4th. Travelled pretty well. This is obviously it's only his second run for Willie Mullins. I threatened to get the trifecta at one stage because I played the first 2 with the 2 other horses that come 4th and 5th. I took on the Blood Destiny form line. I thought I was going to get paid there for 1 minute. But this Gust of Wind could be a nice little horse going forward. It's a shame it wasn't a novice. But I think that come the other festivals, it's the sort of horse that could pop up, run better than it appears. Sort of could be a 16-1 chance or something when Lossiemouth and Gala Marceau run next. And I wouldn't be too surprised if he doesn't come second or beats one of them. Do you see what I mean? It's that I think he will outrun his odds. And unfortunately, he has won a hurdle race. Otherwise, if you remember, Ilate Tomp got beat in this race under similar ownership last year and ended up progressing next season. But unfortunately, he's not a novice for next year like Ilate Tomp is. But I think going forwards, this horse has got a bit more improvement in it than the others have, and other than your one. Yeah,
definitely. And I think it was a strong renewal. We've had some pretty weak Triumph hurdles in the last few years, but this one I think had some serious depth.
I think last year's has been proven to be okay, hasn't it? Because obviously, whatchamacallit only just got beaten. Piper only got chinned in the county, and Vauban's been keeping top company and arguably should have been sort of like 3rd in the champion hurdle. So they're just below, but they normally have one bad season after their 4-year-old season, then they look again at. The likes of Piper, you could see certainly moving forwards next season, couldn't you? Yeah. But obviously not champion hurdle class, of course, but popping up in a big handicap.
Yeah. So all in all, I think a very, very good festival.
Very.
Britain sort of came back a little bit. I think Nichols had a good festival for the first time in a while.
I was pleased he had a couple, but I'd rather have had 1 or 2 other different ones. He had me on the mantelpiece on the week. But it's just nice to see perhaps different sets of owners winning as well. Rather it's the same ones. I will say that about Mullins. He has got loads in the race, but he does have different owners, doesn't he? They're not all the same. But like I say, I think obviously Gordon Elliott's probably he'd be pleased with it. In fact, he's had a few more winners, but he did leave 2 or 3 behind, didn't he? There's 2 or 3 that the likes of Mighty Pops.
The Irish grip wasn't anywhere loosened, but I think
I agree with that. I mean, they were dominant, weren't they?
Yeah.
Especially they're very dominant in the hurdle sphere, aren't they, rather than the chase sphere? I mean, novice hurdlers next year, you've got to think that they're going to take some beating even. But we had a couple in the bumper run quite well, so it'd be nice. It'd be just nice if it was 50-50, wouldn't it? Be a bit more. Yeah. I'm not interested in the Presbury Cup or anything. It's just from in terms of like a level playing field, if you like.
Yeah. Well, we'll do it all again next year, no doubt.
Oh, we can't wait, mate. Yes, I'm looking forward to Aintree. Start the flat soon, mate. Start the flat as well.
Start the flat. We've got Punchestown Festival. There's plenty to be looking forward to, and we'll be back on Friday on my channel for
definitely.
So get these in your tracker, because I do think the ones we've highlighted today, there's be some winners. And I will see you on Friday, Judge.
I will look forward to it, mate.
No need for post-Cheltenham blues. There's plenty of fun on the way. So we'll see you
really
again
soon. There, really honest.
Yeah, really tea. This has been Judges Jules in conjunction with Holden's Horses at our brand new studio. So we'll see you.
I like it, mate. I like it a lot. Yeah. I like an invite one day.
Check with Posty, Judge, what I'd say to you.
Yeah.
See you, folks.